Okay. We have all had, I hope, an opportunity to read through the work that we've done. Anyway, we're back in session. Is that official? And we've had a chance to get through everything that we've done over the last month. It has been, and I commend both of you guys and your focus on this. This has been a lot to work on, and I think we decided there's still more to work on, but I want to bring what we've done to council and then maybe set a regular schedule for going through what we have. Doesn't have to be every week. I think that gets to be an awful lot, but I think a regular schedule or at least once a month we review something on either our rules or our code of conduct, or we've got other items that this committee also has to attend to. So I think that's probably not a bad idea going forward. Is Ben going to be here today, or is he going to be on the Zoom? Or
you know what my assumption was, let me give him a call.
I had the door open.
Because he had to be seen as a pass.
there he is. That answers our question. Good morning, Ben.
We're just talking about you.
And the only other thing that I could think of is with the budget policies, we just put them back in place, that you really didn't review. I don't know if that's something we wanna.
Probably.
I think
Because we don't have, for example, we don't have a policy on new position funding, right? I mean, for example, I wrote something like, no new full-time positions shall be funding using one-time revenues. Before creating a new permanent positions, the city must first identify ongoing revenue sources that can sustain the position and opportunity.
right, and I think that needs to be added somewhere. If so I guess the question is this part of our rules of procedure? Because rules of procedure kind of directs our meetings and how we conduct ourselves in these meetings and with the public and that sort of thing. I don't know if rules of procedure, I mean, it needs to be there. I agree with you there. I'm just not sure that if the rules of procedure is the best place for that. And Jackie, were you able to find where the budget policies that had been in our rules got moved to?
No.
Okay, because I was told it was moved to a different place in the SMC, but I have not been able to locate where that place is. And I either skimmed right over it and didn't pick up on it. Sometimes I read this stuff late at night but if it's not in our SMC somewhere, then probably want to reinsert it in, it's been in there for a long time. So if we reinsert it back in.
Seems like that would be the logical place for it. In the SMCs, in the municipal code.
But where is it? That's the question. If
Yeah.
we can't find it, we need to put it somewhere.
We need to have it. somewhere.
Because those budget policies are important.
And just like, way you're reading that one. That would certainly.
It was in one of the earlier ones that George had.
It was in the 2010, and then we moved in 2018. And just disappeared. They're no, I mean, I couldn't find them either.
Yeah, so I wonder, do we want, I mean, we've been focused on what we've been working on right now. I'd really like to see where we can find those and dig a little bit deeper to try to find what happened to that. And if it's literally not anywhere in our SMC, then it does need to be put somewhere. And then we have to decide, do we want it in the SMC or do we want it in our rules and procedures? So that might be a topic for a separate meeting.
Because it certainly ought to address it. By the rules.
Well, in the first meeting, you said we were just gonna put them back in the rules of procedure.
Right, and then I got some feedback afterwards that said, no, these were removed on purpose because it was placed in a different part of our code. And none of us have been able to find where that is. And I think it's probably something that should be in the SMC rather than the rules of procedure. But we need to figure out where it is and then be able to make a recommendation to council on what we think should be done.
I mean, I think they're important, especially right now through the budget season.
I mean, we can add it in and then later make a recommendation to change it if you guys want to do it that way.
Just like to be able to read them first before, see what was the 2010. And then see if
I
we can
don't-
figure out
I
what
don't-
in 2018 they were taking.
Right, I don't remember them changing after 2000, well, 2010, I wasn't on council yet, so if they were removed in 2010, I probably never saw them in the
No,
rules.
they were in 2010, in 2018, and you were the mayor, they were just removed flat out.
Yeah, and that came to council as a recommendation from the rules committee. I was not on the rules,
Don't
or
recall.
we hadn't met, rules committee hadn't met as well.
I mean, my suggestion is we could keep them in, and then if even the finance subcommittee could have,
Okay,
take a look at them.
Maybe that's.
so let's do that for now and put them in. Okay, let's reinsert those back in there. That's, okay,
And then let's have then have
The finance subcommittee, take a look at them, see what needs to be,
what may need to be updated.
Yeah.
That's okay. And then figure out. Mention back to us with whatever
with
recommendation.
recommendation as leaving them out here or putting them in the
In us.
SNC.
Now it'd be nice to have a copy of them so we can look at what they do say.
You look at it, which one do you have?
I think that was the original here.
2018 one?
Or do you have an 18 one?
This is what they did.
Mhm.
They made this whole section.
Who was city manager at that time? Was that Casey?
18 was, you came on in 18, right?
This man-
So it was Mr. Day who was
Mr.
there.
Day.
Yeah, it was Mr. Day and Julia Smith. I went back and looked at the video to see if there was any more explanation as to why they were removed, but it just,
Does it
there
say
wasn't,
it was
yeah,
removed?
there was no discussion.
So we probably got another reason why we probably want to look at it.
Yeah, okay, so,
And being that Debbie's quite experienced with the budgets and stuff, her being part of the finance subcommittee kind of makes sense for us to review it then.
yeah,
Next item.
okay, we'll add that.
Just a page there, you can-
Oh, we were 2018. That was. And. Okay, can we go back to that, what you just had up there, Jackie? Was made and duly seconded to remove section 2.11 budget policy. That's. Okay,
So it was discussed in a workshop, not the rules committee.
yeah. I don't recall it. That's the problem. 18 was.
It's-
I'm gonna open these, but I'll close my eyes. Close your eyes. Okay. Enough. What you missed is I actually did, look, sit down. That's what my son used to do. I know.
Is there privileged information in there?
Maybe you don't want to do
Yeah,
Okay, then.
close your eyes. Okay. I like how I actually do it, so I, deep down, I must fear you a bit, that's what that tells me.
Good to know.
Actually, do you want us to step out for a bit so you can open it?
It's okay, this mouse doesn't work anyways. Okay.
But whatever happens, I think we're all in agreement that we want to include it for now, again, include it back into the rules and then send that to the finance subcommittee for review and recommendation. So let's add that in for now with the caveat that that can be removed again in a later change, so.
But again, before we adopt these, we do want to take a look at them.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
we want to take a look at them, so if we can get a copy of that email to each of us, that would be helpful. Because, yeah, for us to talk about it now, you know, to analyze whether we want it, and then we haven't really
We haven't even looked at
prepared for it, so.
Yeah. But it is a good-
So in the areas that we have talked about over the last 3 weeks, are we okay with what we've done so far to present to council? Remember, this is not necessarily a final copy, this is handing it to council to discuss and then receive. What my intention is, and you guys can disagree with me and maybe do it a different way, but I'd like it to be on the agenda for Monday night for initial review and discussion, and then final approval we can do later on in the month. So that'll give council members, you know, a couple of weeks to look over it and study it and be prepared,
Yeah.
As well.
and then we can vote on it on our second meeting of the month. Are you okay with that, Mike?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
And that will also then give us time to find that copy of the the budget rules.
right, if we
Yeah,
have,
it's gonna be on here.
it's gonna be on, yeah, once this is,
Yeah.
once it's emailed.
Right. But that might, what I'm just saying is we'll be able to read
Mhm.
it as well.
But then that'll all come before council, and then we can state what we want to do with it,
Sounds good.
right?
Jackie, do you wanna scroll down to the changes so we can just kind of go over it?
Yeah, let's. So, yeah, we've made some terminology changes, which I think will be easily understood by everyone.
And that was a major part of what we were trying to do.
Okay, so city attorney. Yeah, and again, I apologize for the Rules and Ethics Committee. That is something that was part of a different conversation, so that's how that got thrown in. So all of our RCW changes are now correct? Okay,
There was one again, we're gonna get Marcy, we're gonna have a note here somewhere.
I thought we came up with that at the end of the meeting last week.
Jackie, can you go to the workshop? Being that we're gonna go back to our norms or the way, like the workshop on the Monday and then city council the following. Do we need to do anything there?
Right now, the way the statute, the ordinance reads, with the SMC, yes, you would have to amend that to change it. So if you're going to have workshops instead of study sessions, you have the times, dates or not, you have the dates and times already published in your ordinances, so you need to amend your ordinance, change it to a study session, or sorry, to a workshop. If you're gonna separate it out, so it's going to be the first and third Monday of the month, you can state that at the time it's going to happen.
And on here, we should put it back in.
do we need to keep that red line back in?
We redlined it because we removed it earlier in the year.
Let's see, we'll change this, remove workshops, we'll keep study sessions. Not may, will, meet, and then Mike, you said you wanted to start council at 6, the regular meetings, so we
Yeah,
would
that's
change
something
that here.
I wanted to run by this group. So we discussed it. What's your guys' thoughts on starting council meetings at 6 instead of 6:30? We were thinking about. Would people be able to get there on time? And it seems like, and I'm basing that people got to the study session or the special meeting Monday pretty quickly. It was a packed house at 5:30. And we thought, plus it gets people out of there earlier, because most people on Monday, they have to go to work Tuesdays. It's a half an hour makes a huge difference, but it's not. It's not as prohibitive as 5:30 or more difficult to get to. 6 o'clock seemed like a happy medium to the leadership group. Everybody was excited because they get out a half an hour earlier, but nonetheless, wanted to run it by this group to get their thoughts and get your thoughts.
So 5:30's been working okay. I think 5:30's been a bit of a push for me to
Yeah.
get to sometimes. But I think as far as the rest of the council, I don't know about you, George, but the rest of the council seems to be able to be there. So 6 o'clock shouldn't be.
And here's another thought. Here's another thought. If we want consistency for the public, should we make study sessions and council meetings at 6 o'clock, just so we simplify the process?
Yeah, I think if we're going to do it, we need to do it across the board.
Yeah, because to me, 6 o'clock is, because I would say for me as the administrator here, I'm usually working up right till 5, or I'm coming from a meeting. And I will say the 5:30 pushes me to, everything up 30 minutes, which is huge, in a daily day. I think 6 o'clock is the perfect time. It gives me a little bit of time to get gathered, people get off work. And I know I'm justifying it a lot, but
Yeah.
just.
No, you think about it, 5:30, 6:30, I mean, if you can make 5:30 and you've been doing 6:30. 6 o'clock
Probably
is
gonna
not
make
big.
6. And and I would say everything in Sunnyside is probably maybe max 15 minutes if you live on the other side of town, so it gives you.
Depending on traffic, sometimes
Yeah.
5.
So, okay, all right, I like 6. You guys, the consensus is 6, I like
That
that.
works, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So whether it's.
You'll want to amend the ordinance for that.
Yeah.
how do you guys feel about 6 o'clock?
I think
Pretty
it's
good,
as
yeah.
long as it's good for the gals that work.
Yeah, no, I think everybody.
Okay, all right, so carrying on.
Let's see what else we're going here.
So I like the language in that.
Yeah.
And so,
And then the backup was there.
We
Went up
changed to
there in
6 p.m.
3.12. Because it says.
right, so, yeah,
I make that 6 o'clock.
6 p.m., okay.
It's like one more. Now you see that one? It's
Which one are you talking about, Julia?
the 3.1, it says 6:30,
Yes, she changed that
but
one,
you
yeah.
changed it, okay,
Yeah.
I see it.
Okay, so that's. All right, again, back to the RCWs that have been corrected. Okay, we can scroll down. Just change that back in. Right? Okay, 4.4. Parliamentarians shall determine all points of order. Okay, so anytime somebody says point of order, then it goes directly to you as parliamentarian. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
I thought he was gonna be like a backup. To.
No, if we're gonna have a parliamentarian in there, the parliamentarian is the one who is going to rule on certain things. The chair is gonna, give people the right to the floor, but if there's a question, a point of order is a question on what's being done. Let's say somebody gets off topic, somebody jumps in in an appropriate time or something like that, then the point of order, that takes the chair out of it, hopefully to make it a little less contentious. And so we allow the parliamentarian to make the ruling on that.
Okay.
Presiding officers changes to chair responsibilities. I do like the agenda approval. We've done that now in 2 meetings. I like the way that's been working. Does everybody feel
Yeah.
the same?
Yeah.
It's just my personal feeling on it. The council member reports, manager report. Okay.
Under, just back there on the, order of business, number 9, do you want the RCW stated there? Do you need that stated there? About the RC,
Executives. We are required to state the RCW when we call for an executive session,
So
so I don't know that.
necessarily need to.
No,
wait for
and
that.
and the overall code is incorporated the RCW when it's not specifically addressed in the municipal code. And so it's implied that it's available for that.
Mhm.
When you actually notice it as part of your agenda, you need to cite the actual statute, either in your minutes or as part of the agenda.
Property or-
Right, and yeah, there's different reasons for an executive session, so it's going to be a different part of the code. So we can't have just a blanket.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Jackie, where did we put the budget policies? Because I think we already skipped the 2.11 and I didn't see it in there.
Or have you added it back in yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I can because unless I can highlight this and just add it, no, I can't. I'll have to either find this Word version or just type it back out.
Okay.
If you go back to the 2010 resolution, you'll be able to.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll just copy. Yeah, let me do that now.
And we can do
Section
that,
1.
we can leave that as section 2, I guess. because
Yes.
Let's throw it in under
With
general
all your
rules.
numbers self change.
Not on this one, but
They haven't gotten you that extension.
no. Well, I will add it because this will probably take a minute. This smells
Okay.
not good.
You can add it and email it to us.
Yeah, I think that would be the best way to do it.
Let's see, that'll be section 2.
Second 1.1 that was on there.
Yeah,
2.1, I'll add a note here.
perfect, thank you.
I think I have those. Those saving.
It's on the website and I just sent you them.
Thank you. Here's one of those, or that straddle stuff.
Yes.
I've done that.
Letters from council members. Can we change that to reports?
Right.
So 3 there. It doesn't feel finished. The agenda shall provide a time when the mayor or any council member may bring before the council. What? Is that, we want to leave that sentence the way it is? You did put a period at the end of it, but.
Well, what's it, right, which one?
So in the blue, 5.45.3. Items from council members. Or council member reports was the new language.
Yeah.
The agenda shall provide a time when the mayor or any council member may bring before the council.
their report.
Grammatically, that's not actually a correct sentence.
Was that-
It used to say any business he or she
Was that
feels.
topics for discussion or was it supposed
Well,
to
it's-
be big for? What were we thinking about there? I
Well,
can't remember.
At the time, you know, the old one said any business that he or she feels should be deliberated upon, but what we want to change that to is a report so that you report on the meetings you've attended
Mhm.
and.
I think what we put down there was like reports like the YB-COG report, I think
Correct.
was what I have here in my notes.
Subcommittee reports.
Subcommittee reports, various activities we've attended, that sort of thing. Anything that was.
Right, so we need to finish that sentence with,
So I think maybe, yeah.
that indicates
before the-
that.
Shall bring before the council.
Agenda shall provide a time, the mayor and council members may report to council on meetings attended.
Oh. Yeah, I think the reports.
I think, yeah, when any council member or mayor may report to council.
I think we wanna kind of wonder. Right up to where it says council may bring before the council any reports and or
Okay,
what would be the and or part?
reports on subcommittee meetings or city related meetings or events, city related activities.
Activities, so that.
Yeah, cause I kind of like, you know, everybody kind of enjoys, like, if they go to a ribbon cutting or a special event, and say, you know, I attended it, they did a great job, you can, you know. Extend your praise out to whoever put it together. It's just an opportunity for us to relate how we've been able to
I think it was
do
like
things.
may.
May reports.
What was the rest that you?
Something about activities.
Meetings.
Special events.
Or activities, special events. Council, okay, that works.
There you go. Okay, so this, that other part which got blacked out.
Happened. Is there something that changed?
No, this is fine. My wife is also my law partner, was a copy editor and former wife, and so she. Yeah, it's grammatically correct.
Grammatically correct, yes.
I'm laughing because it's true.
Yeah,
I'm laughing.
Well, and that's always the challenge, because, you know, you can look at the old language and say, okay, this is the best, and then you try to put something new in there, and that's not necessarily any better, and then you're trying to fight with yourself back and forth, okay, how are we gonna do this?
And you can put and or special events at the end too, to not limit yourself to what you're allowed to speak about.
Right.
But that's up to the council to decide.
Right,
No, on the last one.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I thought my mouse was, my arrow was there. Let's see. This,
And or special events.
Yeah.
To council. Period.
there you go, yep.
and the what you removed, what did you find?
Say again.
Wouldn't the section that you removed just be fine to leave in place instead?
And any
Well,
business.
I think that,
Bring before the.
What's,
Any business that he or she feels should be deliberating.
I think maybe instead of bring it to. the special events and council, and then you're trying to give us a way to get that topic of discussion. So that we could bring it back to council at a different time, they could bring it up here during the report.
But then
But that,
we have
We
that
have it-
now
we
with
have
the
that.
approval of the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, where if something needs to be added, a council member can say, I would like to talk about this and add this to the agenda tonight. And so, because I've seen it before where somebody's, and not just this council, but in the past, I remember a council member who would all of a sudden come up with a fully prepared resolution. And we'd all look at him in shock and say, okay, what are we supposed to do with this? We're not gonna vote on this tonight. And it was, yeah, it was frustrating for council, for everyone.
it's one eliminate, it's shock and awe.
We want to, I like the idea. It's like, okay, if you've got something you want to add to the agenda later on in the meeting, let's bring it up right at the beginning and approve it as a body so that we're not surprised. And if it's something that we want to receive the information, then bring it back for another meeting, I think council should have the opportunity to do that instead of being expected to vote on something that we haven't prepared for. So I guess,
So that's.
I guess that's some of the. And if I remember correctly, and I think George, you were one who brought up some of that.
Yeah. I wanted it more like. Something on the agenda already, okay, counselor attended like YB-COG and put it on there so that particular counselor wouldn't forget, or, there was a subcommittee for finance, something along those lines.
Yeah,
that-
since that's their duty to go to those, to make those reports, those items reports, but I see what you're trying to say.
But we don't always remember that.
Right. So, let's, what do you say, we leave it the way we've made the changes for now, and if,
Maybe it'll come to us.
and it can come back as a question to council on Monday, and that's something that they can deliberate on too, if they want to change it back to the original. Again, this is only a recommendation to council. Council's the one that makes the decision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could do that.
let's do that.
Okay. So then, election of mayor, change the term from presiding officer to chair. I think that's a good change. And then the procedure for election of mayor and deputy mayor hasn't changed. Okay. Again, we have a terminology change. And then following that removal of mayor, that is all new. And this is what we worked on last week.
Mhm.
But that one still has the ad hoc committee,
Where?
Number 2.
number 2, so
Yeah.
that's.
Oh, really?
That's what it was proposed, but then we.
Okay, you are correct. You are correct. That is
That's the-
not what we,
Mm-mm.
it's not what we did.
So section 9, the one that we went over and we added it on the section 9.
Yeah,
Big way, yeah.
9-6, and,
So this we could remove.
yeah, that has,
Is that? We.
Well, since it wasn't, since it's not on the 2018, it shouldn't even be on here at all.
no, this is the one that I brought just as a starting point. This is where we started discussion.
We remove it completely.
Yeah, let's take that out and then we'll add your
9-6.
9-6, the one that we worked on last week.
That wouldn't. It wouldn't come before council that wording, right? Because it's not on there currently, so we just delete it.
Yeah.
No.
And then
Do you want me not to show it on the track changes at all?
on that,
Correct.
yeah, that's not on the current
Yeah,
form. That
that's not
is,
current.
So I will.
we can,
Will we do sidebars here?
I'm saying that, are you gonna-
Sidebars?
no, we're not doing sidebars. Just you name our,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you are here, server, I'm sorry.
I know I'm like in class with spring, sorry.
Yeah, that will 575.6 is. Been superseded by later discussion, so.
The entire thing?
Yeah, we started with 9.6 last week. Council disciplinary procedures,
So I'm removing this whole 5.6.
correct.
The mouse that's in.
I'm just gonna say remove entire section.
Correct. And did you add in what we did last week, that 9.6?
It should have it, because this is based off the changes. that we made.
Okay. So then it was inserted somewhere.
the right switch seats to close. Oh, yeah. Closer to the beginning.
That last one I still have, but maybe it won't. Right?
Better reception.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, I missed the chair. Oh.
That would have been horrible.
It was so low.
That's why I switched
Your
out
face.
chairs, so, because it was so low, I thought I was gonna sit on the floor for a minute.
Okay, a little much better. Okay, so. Never mind. We are going to remove all of this one step at a time. I thought I had already typed that in.
Oh, yeah, too.
On a different one.
That might be a 9. Is that where you put it?
Glad you guys saw me do it and.
Yeah.
Okay,
But when you,
we'll find it, see.
Yeah, might be under 9.
Okay, let's go, so 6.
Okay, so change. Okay, do we need to finish that
yeah, that
RCW?
was your SCW, wasn't
Yeah, that's the one that we needed to. Is that the one you found at the end of the meeting, Ben?
No, actually, the one we're talking about is the mandatory reporting.
Okay,
I'm not on my notes here.
$35.8.39.010.
it?
35A, 39.
.010. That's what the 2010 version shows.
Okay, so we'll need to confirm that, make sure.
Make sure it hasn't changed. since.
Yeah. 2010 is all of a sudden a long time ago.
That's for public documents and records, so that should work.
Okay,
And it's also stated on the 6.5 right above it too.
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, I like having the RCW stated in there as opposed to required by law. That's it. All right, carrying on. We have prepared to prepare. I like that. Change. Changes there other than 7.3. See, okay. You see something, speak up right away. Just in case the screen goes crazy on her again.
See,
On the unscheduled parents, I know that that's what it says there, but then on the agenda, we don't call it that. We just call
Public
it
comment.
public comment, right?
So that, yeah, and that's been a recent change because it did used to be unscheduled appearance by citizens, and then when it, I don't remember when it changed to public comment, do you?
but it's always been public comments since I started.
I remember when I started, it was unscheduled appearances. So there wasn't a lot of noise made about the change apparently at the time, because I don't remember it happening. We can change that to public comment. I know state law after 2020 requires that we have a time for public comment, so we can change that to public comment.
We'll either change it here or change it on the agenda. That
Well,
way it
Well,
could
I think we have
be
to
the
change
same.
it, change it here.
I feel like we do too. I think let's change that to public comment.
Did we add something there about back on that one, on public comment? Just because of technology and stuff, I think I remember, I wrote something here about, comments via Zoom. I know we've had comments that come into us via Zoom. That was under that,
So one of the ones that we're gonna come back and look at.
what is it?
Yeah,
I don't know, I just had a notification myself, that is, so I remember that we should talk about that.
Yeah, I have a comment too that we're gonna come back and talk about remote attendance, whether we're able, yeah. It has worked. I know people have taken advantage of it. It is helpful when you draw my attention to it because I don't always see it, so. I don't know if there's another way to make it more obvious on the screen that somebody, because we don't always have the Zoom screen up on our screens. And so to see when somebody's got their hand up, it's a little bit of a challenge, so.
Is that one that you can see from where you are, so you would see
Yeah.
it?
And she's been good about mentioning it. I think it's working okay the way that it is, but. That
The other
was,
thing is you can require the citizens to sign up prior to the meeting for public comment.
Via Zoom.
and that's
Yeah.
something that I had read up, but we can
Yeah.
come back to that.
right, and we do require everybody in person to sign up. Well,
So-
require, we ask them to.
We ask it to.
So to do that via the Zoom, I don't think there's anything wrong, then then it doesn't catch whoever's chair off guard, perhaps, this will, although it's not.
Check the second sentence there, it's another unscheduled parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should somehow designate some kind of a sign in there too. Because we always afterwards, there's always that list you put out of the people who spoke with the contacts and so forth. That'd be good to have in there.
Do you want me to add a note here that you'll look into
Yes,
remote
Yeah.
comment?
yes.
What about if, like there was this issues will be either referred to staff or the council? I know that this has been one of the discussions in the past few meetings,
Or just staff of the
For
council.
the chair. But the chair will
I think,
refer staff or
I think
something along those lines?
typically, I think it should go to the staff because they're gonna. be
Yeah.
more apt
Well,
to
the staff has
figure it out.
probably got better access to the information that the public's gonna want anyway. You know, if it's a question about water or sewer, I'm not gonna have the answer as chair, you're not gonna have the answer as chair, but the staff.
This, something along the lines where the chair will refer items to staff.
Okay.
Which one?
That way,
It's the last sentence under 8.1.
This one,
Yeah,
three?
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to have a. Yeah. This is gonna cause all kinds of corruption.
Also,
Amendment.
oh. It's got public uproar and outcry and all.
No, just.
A sore neck is what's nice and fun.
It's just my own physical word. Fortunately, I have an app for that.
So I guess I'm okay with the sentence as it is, but we can definitely change it. Because as it is, it's kind of understood that staff is going to take charge of looking at it, or if council decides, hey, let's make sure that we put that on a future agenda. And bring that up. But that's quite often so far, thank you, it's been the manager that has taken that, said, you know what, we'll bring it up, look at it next meeting, we'll get some answers. So,
I kind of want to stick to that because, you know, if we have to word it clearer, then yeah. But
I guess the way it is, it allows for the chair to refer it to staff or the manager to refer it to somebody. And council can say, can we get this on a future agenda? So that's anybody on council who can speak up, say, I'd really like for us to talk about that next meeting or something.
so we could say that and potentially after public comment, after they speak, because usually, you know, council doesn't.
So we don't necessarily refer, and I think it's best practices that we don't necessarily respond immediately to the person who's speaking.
Mhm.
However, we can turn to council and say, this is something we need to talk about,
Okay,
But then we're referring it to staff.
but it's
to-
refer, yeah,
And then they can bring it forward. Now, if they can't get that particular bit of information to us by the next meeting, that, you know, they can let us know at the next meeting or at some point so that we can let the public know that we are looking into it, but we don't quite have all the details, blah, blah, blah.
right.
Does that make sense, Mike?
I think so.
Mhm.
Because, yeah. I mean, these things that come before council from, you know, public comments are things that,
Well, like,
and well, and as we've seen, council members want to respond and weigh in on it, but we don't want to start a conversation between the council and the public at that point. That's, you know,
Yeah.
that doesn't lead to an orderly meeting at all. But at the same time, we don't want to ignore what these folks have said quite often. You know, folks will leave after the public comment period, and when we get to the reports from council members, somebody wants to bring that up, they don't even hear that the council member
mhm.
has mentioned it and is in fact concerned about what they brought forward. So, you know, for us to turn to the manager or turn to the council, say, let's dig into this one a little bit more, is showing response to the public, but yet not engaging in conversation. So it's-
what I've seen in Yakima, what they do is other council members ask for clarification after that particular, you know, resident
Mhm.
made a comment.
So to the, asking the resident for clarification.
Or like a particular clarification, or ask a question. Cause like you said, you know, they might comment and then take off, so by the time the meeting's over and say, I wanna go to the
So
restaurant,
I-
ask something.
I guess the procedure would be then they would ask the chair, is it all right if I ask for clarification on this question?
Okay.
And then the chair would say, yeah, absolutely.
Alright.
At least I as chair would do that. I can't speak for anyone else, but I would think that would be appropriate under Robert's rules, correct?
It would, you have to be a little cautious of doing that though, because it's not time for discourse. So when public comment is provided the situations for the public to make statements. There's nothing wrong with asking for clarification unless it's recognized by the chair for that moving forward.
But on the other hand, too, you know, if we're sending it to the staff, then that, with the staff member who's assigned that particular issue, then go to that community member and say, okay, this is what I heard you say, can you give me some clarification on?
Well, and I think it's two separate questions.
There's two separate questions.
I think so, because council members are gonna wanna understand what this person is saying. And then after that clarification, council can say, can we send this to staff to dig a little deeper in it? Then that staff member goes to that resident and says, all right, let's talk this out and figure out, make sure I understand exactly what you're saying here, what the problem is. So I think it's two separate questions. I don't have a problem with a council member wanting clarification on a statement that somebody makes, but it does need to go through the chair.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Teresa just had a good point. Would you mind if you weighed in really quickly on?
What do you got, Teresa?
It's on issues, I think it should say issues may either be referred to staff or council to schedule an item for a future agenda. Because when you say will, there's some comments that there isn't gonna be anything to send to staff, but you're saying will.
Okay, so it changed the word to may.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
And Mr. Mayor, we've tried to be better about reaching out to members that make a comment. So I'm being much more intentional about taking the notes during and going back. What I've been doing the past few meetings is going back and looking at public comment and making sure I follow up with the
Right,
folks.
and the public comments are always sent out to all council members, so
Yeah.
any council member can respond. Or talk to the member of the public as well, so because everybody gets an email a day or two after the meeting, and these are the public comments. So that's been, practice as well, so it's,
Yeah,
but yeah, and I'm trying to be more proactive about that when people point out my faults, which, I'm aware of them, and when you point out them, I'm aware of more of them, and so.
I know the feeling.
Go ahead, George.
And I remember I mentioned this before, back in the beginning, where, yeah, we do get the questions or the comments from the public, but we don't necessarily see the response.
Correct.
So I think that's very helpful, because if another citizen, wants to know the same question, then we at least know what staff responded to that question.
Right, and since we get it a couple of days afterwards, the staff hasn't necessarily had time to provide an answer for that yet. Sometimes they have the answer right away, and other times it takes a little bit more looking.
Which the time is fine, right? If it takes them a week or two, it's fine, but at least send it. I would like to see what the response is.
Okay, so,
And we also want to make sure that comes back to council. Because it was made in public, the question was made in
Right.
public.
well, and we sort of have a policy in place already anyway, where let's say a council member asks a question of the manager, a specific item, manager refers it to a staff member, comes back, and then he responds to all of council with the answer. So that we're all on the same page.
Mhm.
None of us likes to be surprised. And so we're all being kept apprised of what's going on. That's kind of been past practice as well. So we can do that with public comment as well.
I think that was probably.
And that can be, something that council asks of the manager in a public meeting as well. Say, hey, this is what we'd like to see happen.
And Ben, for clarification, I mean, this is something over the years I've always wondered if a council member gets, or a manager, whoever gets into a conversation with the citizen during public comment, is it best practice not to engage, or is it RCW that you shall not engage? I've always wondered that. I've
It's not
never asked.
RCW, it's Robert rules.
Okay, so it's more
So,
Robert's rules, okay.
yeah, but you're not supposed, and the RCW incorporates Robert rules as default.
Okay,
It's not
gotcha.
just specifically. So, yeah, and if it's specifically cited as public comment, then you're not supposed to have discourse during that situation.
Gotcha, okay, that helps.
Okay,
Yeah, cause I can remember one of my first ever meetings in government. Somebody came up and said something that was completely false and and it was like, ah, stop, you know, so.
well, and I've seen, you know, and I've watched other council meetings online, and I've seen where council members or mayor or managers have engaged in dialogue with the public, and it has been completely counterproductive.
Right,
And we want to avoid that.
yeah,
I remember that it is a business meeting.
Yeah,
We're there
yeah,
conducting
and
business.
we do want to converse with the public, but at the appropriate time outside of the meeting. Or if there's a special meeting that needs to be held with somebody in the public who's got a concern, then absolutely we do that, but
absolutely, yeah.
all right. Are we okay there on the public comment section then? All right, manner of addressing the council, we didn't make any changes there.
It's only about the chair presiding over the.
Right. Personal and slanderous remarks. So I have a note there to reword that. I know Monday night I tried to put the brakes on somebody naming somebody off by name, and they right away went at me, I have freedom of speech, and so I don't know how much we can restrict people.
You cannot,
Yeah,
so
So then
fortunately,
then if they say somebody's name, then it's on.
that's their liability, not the city's
Right.
situation. It's
Well-
bad practice for the city council and any city employee not to name people
Right.
specifically for that.
right. And we have always asked that members of the public don't name, you know, they speak to them as a department. We have person in this department, whatever department it happens to be that has done this, rather than name that employee by name. But that is not city liability if they do so.
Correct.
We can suggest it, but we don't have to, we can enforce it.
Right, and you can't curtail public comment.
Right.
So if you try to couch it or restrict it, the only time you can do that specifically is if you have an item of action you're taking on specifically the meeting and a public comment on that specific action. So if the comments aren't restricted to that specific item at that time, as far as the subject matter, then you can correct public comment at that point. But the open public comment for the meeting itself, you can't restrict what they say.
Okay, so I did see on one city document, and I don't know which one it was off the top of my head, they didn't bring it with me, but. They, something along the lines, we humbly request that. Or something like that, you know, where we ask that members of the public don't name employees by name. I mean, speak to them, you know, as far as the department goes, but not naming people by name. I'm not sure how that was worded, but I do have a note on 8.3 to reword that, and. So that's something that. I want to address as well.
I think, I think just letting, even when there's free speech and so forth, really, shouting fire in the.
There's restrictions on freedom of speech as well. You can't make comments that to incite violence or destruction against someone else or someone else's property. That's illegal. That's actually a infraction at that point. You can't shout fire. There's no fire. That's a federal felony. And so. Yeah, there's restrictions on it. As far as restricting the content of the remarks during public comment, you can't do that.
So it's the onus is on the person whose name has been brought up to public in a unflattering.
Right, so the way that would play out logistically is like, let's say Joe Blow, who was the state public works director, is stealing money from city coffers. Okay.
They just
They
throw it right out there.
and so the city says, okay, we're gonna fire him as a result of that, that he's saying this public comment, then the person who made that comment, if it's found to be untrue, they're liable for it, not the city itself. So,
And there's, I mean, slanderous remarks against a city employee, is that actionable as well?
yes. If it results in damages, yes.
So, okay,
There's
I think we need to leave that in.
certain times where we can kick somebody out, right?
Yeah, so if someone's disrupting the meeting to the point where it can't continue, at that point, then yes, you can have them.
okay,
They continue to be out of order, I guess it's the.
they can be.
Well, if someone will clearly shine at the point where you can't conduct business and you can't continue, then legally you can have it under 35A something for that. That's disruptive.
Okay. So. Okay. Further comments on that one? All right, let's continue then.
I see a typo up there, maybe is all one word, and I think it should be may be forthwith by the.
Oh, yeah, that is 2 words in that situation.
Forthwith is okay, but
But
maybe.
unfortunately, it may be, because they're not saying, it's not saying maybe, they're
Right.
saying may be. So, okay, council continues. Okay, so 9 is where we added the new language here, so. And that was this document. With some minor changes.
And that's all.
That's all there in red. Okay, so that is there. Good.
That's all the stuff we talked.
So yeah, we can absolutely delete the section that was in there before.
This shows everything new stuff.
Okay. How do we feel about this so far?
Jackie, did you make the changes that we discussed? Yeah.
Yeah.
See that.
Back in an RCW there. So on 9.7, paragraph 3, state law violations, got RCW at the end of the paragraph there, but we don't have it listed out.
And do you have that with RCW for this section?
Yeah, so there's 2 you wanna cite. One is an RCW, which is 2644.030. Which is the mandatory reporting for child abuse, and then the federal section, which is 42 USC 13031.
031.
Then after the USC, but before the 13031, you want the section symbol.
After USC?
Yes.
No, I get it. I don't. Do you know it then?
It's, well, I mean, there's symbols, so.
Oh, you don't have the command.
So on the far right there, very
Oh,
close.
there it
And
There's one.
it's in that paper.
I'll just put in a note, insert.
Years and I'm doing some volunteer stuff. I've been having to do Excel sheets and words. figure out where they moved everything. I swear they just randomly do it, this, decide, you know what, we move it over here now,
That way they can make you pay for new.
yeah, put under this subheading instead of that. Okay,
I think one time we had a conversation about silent votes. Silent votes, how, during the meeting, some members don't actually vote.
Yeah,
And it
I
should
think it would
be-
be helpful, Mayor, if we do a roll call vote. It's gonna be helpful for Jackie. Sometimes, yeah, it's kind of difficult to put in the minutes to who voted and didn't.
So the rules of order require that if you take an actual vote and you can't discern how each member voted in the situation, because you have three choices, you either yea, nay, or abstention for that. And so if you can't determine that by audibly, you call for a roll call vote, or any member of the council can ask for a roll call vote if they can't discern who actually voted.
Can Jackie call for a roll call vote then?
you can, yeah,
Yeah.
she has.
The chair can always defer to that, yes, so.
We did that for a long time and it got to be extra work for you, and so once we were back in person regularly. I stopped calling for a roll call vote on every vote, but we did that for a while.
Has this been an issue, does it come?
It has.
Okay,
If I don't see any vote, then I told Mayor that, the clerks have mentioned. Recommended that we just did say yes vote, if you don't, if I don't see you say yes.
Mhm.
And you're not abstaining from voting, then it's a yes. And so that's why we thought we would put it in the rules of procedure that if you were a silent vote, then it was considered a yes.
right, unless you say I abstain, then,
Is that part of Robert's rules?
Yes,
So would be understood.
yeah, it'd be understood in that situation, but yeah, for clarification going forward, you can always ask for a roll call vote. And then either the chair can ask for it, any member of the council can ask for it. The chair can also defer to city employees if necessary, if they have to for the record, correct?
yeah, well, especially in the case of the clerk who's got to keep accurate minutes,
Yes.
chair would definitely, you know.
For votes itself, it is not necessary for the minutes necessarily, as long as you have the actual vote count for how it passed. But if you want to identify how specific numbers you can always ask for that.
I think it's better if we identify.
You want to do so you're suggesting a roll call vote each time?
Yeah.
We can put it in there and see what, I mean, it's,
I think when you, if for some reason there was you didn't hear the person go, then would you ask for a roll call as opposed to just summarily doing it every single time?
you know, like. Once again, once we were back in person, we started out because we would have a member or two who was remote, and so it started out with a roll call vote every single time. And I kind of had the sense that it was a little burdensome for the clerk. But we went back to the yay or nay. Again, I'm willing to switch that up for a roll call vote. I mean, if you're gonna vote for something, you need to have the confidence in your vote and speak up. If you're just gonna sit there silently because you haven't made up your mind, that's a de facto yes vote. Then you might as well make your vote.
I mean, I think. When Jackie's coming to us for clarification and make it simple on her, I think we should
Yeah.
definitely change it.
Okay, we can put that, we can put a line in there. Where do we put that? Yeah.
Where do you put that?
Will that go? In the end, like. Suspension of rules in that area? I don't think so.
This is all about this, but I would be mine.
Number 6.2 deals with recording of votes.
There we go. All right, so yes, we can, that would be the place,
Okay,
and shall be taken as a roll call vote. or something along those lines.
And that's a roll call.
It should be taken. Let's see. What shall be a roll call? And in doing that, Jackie, would you want then to have every council member's name on the
Yeah, I'll do the little chart.
sheriff agenda and you just check it?
And we'll do real quick.
I can do that, yeah. Yeah, as long as I know that it has to be done, I'll do it, for sure. No, because we let you do it before. But, yeah,
When we were virtual.
yes.
I think the chair.
Mhm. Go 5 minutes to the entire meeting, so it's not gonna be
Yeah.
overly burdensome.
Sometimes it goes by you so fast too, sometimes. Still contemplating. But you can always, as a council member too, you can always go back. I don't think you heard me vote.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody do
No,
that,
no. I'm just saying that's a possibility.
right? You know, and as far as still deciding on, you know, on some issues, yeah, you still, but most of the time, if you come
Most
to the
of the
meeting
time.
prepared, you already
You
know
already know. Yeah.
your inclination on a particular question anyway.
Yeah.
You can be swayed by testimony or public comment or something, but most of the time, if you're prepared coming into the meeting, you should.
You cannot go wrong with a roll call vote. I'll
There
tell you
you
that
go.
much.
There
And so
you
where
go.
losses have resulted in the situations where someone said they voted different was actually counted. So
Mm-hmm.
the verbal, yea or nay. So that always good practice.
So
Makes sense.
I'm totally fine with that. That's just a new.
I like it. And the whole thing is standard that's coming out for everybody.
All right, so are we good with the rules of procedure that we are presenting to council on Monday?
Yes.
Okay, so the next item on here is review the ordinance pertaining to chapter 2.08.080. Sunnyside Municipal Code pertaining to removal of the mayor, deputy mayor from office due to dereliction of duty or code of conduct. This is the ordinance that was brought to council in August. That actually led to these discussions that we've been having in these meetings. Does anybody have, I mean, so what we're doing is we're gonna basically providing, we're making a recommendation either or. So after this amount of work, now we have the opportunity, are we going to recommend the work that we've done on the rules of procedure, or are we gonna recommend the ordinance as presented to council in August? So comments on that.
Well, I think since we've spent a great deal of time kind of taking that, what was submitted in August, taking it apart and then trying to figure out how to incorporate it into our rules and procedures. We've addressed a lot of those things that were included in that ordinance. So this may be, make that a moot point and then if we accept the rules as the rules.
I think if we could all come to an agreement for the rules and procedures, then the next order of business would be to repeal this one.
I think so. That would be the next step if we all agree on the rules and procedures as amended, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Because that seems so simple.
I know, that'd be a nice tidy way of doing it, but no, so what happened was, Councilperson Frosto made this recommendation, this ordinance. It was voted on it to be tabled and referred to the Rules Committee for review. So at this time, then you come back with your findings, present to the city council, and that here we have the rules of procedure, we believe we're adopting this portion of what the Councilperson Frosto wanted to propose, and here's what it is. Okay, at that point, Councilperson Frosto has the option to accept that review, or she can move to have her previous ordinance approved and adopted by the council. If she doesn't agree with that.
Okay. Because I guess
Wasn't this voted on?
we did, but we voted to send it to Rules Committee.
That was the vote.
Yeah,
That was a vote.
The vote was to refer to Rules Committee for review.
and then we're gonna come back with a recommendation.
Because isn't it on the website as a? I thought it's in on the website already, as an ordinance.
It isn't published yet, so no. It shouldn't be on the website as an ordinance.
No. It was brought back.
If it's on as an active voting item, it can still be listed as that, so.
It hasn't. The last
Okay.
ordinance we passed was May 13th
Yeah.
and then 9/23.
Yes.
Oh, good.
I got nervous.
Yeah, so, okay,
So, yeah, I think, you know, looking at it, we can make a recommendation. I think we were pretty diligent about incorporating the main ideas as I understood them anyway. I'm assuming that you guys are on the same page, it's like, but the main idea as I understood it of that ordinance has been incorporated in our amendments to the rules.
Yeah.
You know, I guess my problem with that particular ordinance, in addition to some of the language, is the fact that it's kind of an orphan out there in the SMC all by itself. And since so much of that stuff is governed by our rules and it is a council issue, it should be in our rules if we're going to put that in there. And so that's where I'm falling on that. We did the ordinance in, I think we covered pretty much all of it actually.
Yeah,
So
we took it apart for a while, don't you?
Yeah, I think just
So we
bring it to
can-
council and.
Yeah.
And then that's one of the reasons too, I want to present the change to the rules of procedure on Monday and give council a chance to look at that in comparison to the previous ordinance and then go with the recommendation or not of this committee.
Are we gonna discuss it in a regular council meeting or?
We will bring it on Monday and start a discussion and then give council opportunity to study it, and then we'll bring it back for discussion and vote on what is the date of that, the 27th?
27?
Okay.
28th, yeah.
28. So Ben, you're, so essentially Vicky's ordinance is separate from what's baked into the rules committee rules essentially.
correct.
So that she has the ability to reject that on her own, of course.
She can, because it's her proposal, her resolution to propose the or approve the ordinance. Scratch that.
Okay, I
She
see.
proposed an ordinance for a vote. What
Right.
she can do as a council person. There was a secondary vote to table that and refer back to rules committee, which the city council can do, which you did. But then it still has to be addressed at a later date, whether it goes forward or whether it's incorporated as a rules you propose. If council person Frosta doesn't agree that this satisfies that or removes her ordinance for vote, then she can re-propose it for vote. So approved by the city.
In its original form,
Yes.
I see.
And will we do that?
And then before it's published, it's a 5-day cooling off period where we have to review it to make sure it is constitutionally correct and follows the actual MSSMCs. We then propose revisions to that have to be followed if it's in order for procedurally to be correct. That has to be voted on as a revised version.
But essentially she could approve what this group has worked on.
Yes,
And then would we vacate that ordinance or?
yes, or she would just not bring it back up at that.
Okay,
point for a vote.
okay, so that's best case. You know, certainly simplify things for us, but
I mean, in its original form, I mean, I'm assuming it was legal somewhat, or, I mean, I know we.
So you got pretty close. I mean, there's a couple of
Yeah.
code sections where we need to correct those just to make sure it works with the pagination of the current existing municipal code. But other than that, yeah.
You know, if she decides to vote on the original, I just don't want to get us in trouble.
Right.
Because it's, you know, who knows what's gonna happen, but.
Yeah. But again, I think we did. You know, a pretty thorough job of going through
Right,
what that
yeah.
ordinance's intentions were and incorporating that into our rules, so. I'm optimistic, yeah, I think we covered the intent.
Well, and I know I meet with her every other Thursday, so. Jackie, if we can have something I can give to Vicky tomorrow, and then, you know, she can digest that. Based on that, we'll make the decision, whatever she decides.
So for Monday's agenda, I'm adding a review and discussion of the rules of procedure and draft. And then review of the ordinance that Vicky presented to consider.
Do we want to do that already on Monday, or do we want to wait till the 28th?
Gosh, I'm thinking maybe do the review Monday, so.
Of this?
I kind of think,
I
I think we
was,
should do the review first.
I think so too. I mean,
And
that's,
then in the action, I can put,
because I mean, another thing we can do is the 21st is a workshop. I mean, that could be a robust discussion and then decide the 28th. That's
Okay,
another option.
That'd be the practical way to do it.
I would-
And you wanna have it available for review by the public as well as,
I would like that. I'm not remembering the new workshop.
Yeah,
schedule yet, so.
So
that's the
officially,
21st.
officially workshops will start the 21st. It would be a perfect opportunity for a workshop. No decision will be made.
And bring it
The
back.
public could weigh in because they'd have an opportunity to look at it.
Yeah.
You know, by the time it's noticed, they'll have an opportunity to look at all the changes and make comments, and then that way we could have a really good discussion on the 21st and then decide the 28th.
That works.
I think so.
That is very open and transparent and clear, and that seems to be the buzzword this year.
the RCW also doesn't require you to provide this to the public, but it encourages you.
Yeah,
That's the words they use in the RCW for it to provide this on the website or, and some forms of the public can review it prior to publication and approval by the city council.
and there's enough public interest in this particular question to justify going the extra mile to make sure that everybody has it available if they want to.
Yeah, so all you're required to do is provide a link on your website for it and have a copy available if someone wants to come to City Hall.
Okay. And our agenda as published is open to everyone, right? The whole packet
Yeah.
available to
Yeah.
everybody in the public, the same instant it comes to the rest of us, so
Yes.
any citizen can go in there and look at it.
And then after everything is said and done, we can put it on the website.
Yes,
As
Good
a
idea.
finished product.
Yeah, because-
as soon as possible. Once we agree in requisite time periods or whatever it was there, I'd love it to be up there because, yeah, I agree with you on that one. I looked for it as well. It's like, okay, if it's there, it's hard to find. And I get tired of navigating drop boxes and looking for different things, and so it's like,
So what do we do with all the previous ones? I mean, how do we do this, archive those?
You can, if an ordinance supersedes or amends prior ordinance, the prior ordinance can just be archived at that.
So this then becomes rule and as
correct.
You have to have it available for review in the public, so it has to go to a publication service. MRSC should have a record of it, and then if you have the other state agency, as that's who it goes to.
I don't know if in our website, I know in Pasco, the prior PMC, you could see it, and then the way it was amended, I can't recall if ours does that,
we just started doing that,
which is
for
good
the last 2
practice.
years.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, it's good to know, because then people can kind of get the history of
Right,
where it started and then how, doesn't say why it was altered, but it just gives you the new version basically.
right. And I remember that discussion. It was all about, again, making things available to the public.
Yeah.
There were a lot of questions and we tried to do what we could to make things a little bit easier to find and easier to understand. So,
Right.
Also, archiving doesn't remove it as a public record, which
Right.
means you're still responsible
You're
for it,
still-
so some requests that you have to be able to provide it.
Yeah, true. And I've seen that where people have requested the
Oh,
old
yeah.
ordinance and you're like, hopefully we can find it.
all right, anything else? We've got items from committee members is the next item on the agenda. Somebody can bring something up.
I was just thinking when we were talking earlier about when we're setting what we're gonna look at next. And you have some things, maybe we wanna go ahead and figure out how we wanna agenda those out.
Well, that is
Can we do
number
that
6,
now?
items for the next meeting.
No, I figured items from committee, go for the next items. Same thing.
So what,
I didn't bring with me bids like
That's the one you
the
sent.
social
us,
media
but-
policy.
Yeah, over that, yeah, you sent us a list of those,
Mhm.
so maybe we can drag those out, but do we wanna do them like two at a time, or do we wanna? 'Cause
So
if we
what
can
I,
keep these down to, I don't know, because you guys are both working, I don't care, I can do this anytime.
So we keep it to a couple of items on the agenda for each meeting and keep the meetings manageable.
Well,
Do we
are
want
we
to
gonna do it on a
this?
monthly basis?
I think so. I think for the foreseeable future, we need to meet on a monthly basis until we're comfortable with where we are.
I think so
on
too.
this.
So the first Wednesday of every month?
Seems right.
First Wednesday, that's November. There's a calendar hanging on the wall in here, but,
Yeah, there's one.
oh, there it is, right in front of my face. Of course I couldn't see it. November the sixth. We still may be exhausted from the fifth, I don't know. No, that's the second.
Just to keep it.
Just a regular.
Yeah, I think so. Why don't we do that? Schedule a meeting for first Wednesday, that'll be the sixth, and
Are you not here? You plan on having me here? Yeah.
What?
That's my question.
At the same time, 8?
that works, yeah.
Do we have any committee board members that we need to?
It was on November
We do.
sixth, I was.
And that can be part of the
Yeah,
agenda.
November sixth,
Yeah.
9 to 8 a.m.
Yeah, I kind of put that all on hold until we got through this, because. Yeah.
And then
And
are the future meetings going to be public? Am I publishing an agenda? Am I not?
That we need to know. And you've made some,
Yeah, I mean,
some decisions arbitrarily. So let's
yes,
see
I
what those
have.
are.
I mean, these committee meetings, I'm not gonna notice anymore, because the intent is to work. So,
yeah, we're not taking action. We come-
and that is the linchpin of the argument, I guess you could say. If there's no action taken, we have that discretion whether to notice or not, so.
yeah, we're at the most, we're gonna make recommendations.
To council as a whole.
Bring some observations perhaps, but most will do recommendations.
Yeah, and I think in this particular meeting, because we originally noticed it, we in good faith kept noticing it. So there wasn't any perception that we were trying to hide anything, so I think we've met our obligation on this one, but and one of the reasons because there's probably people in the public maybe watching and people, general public here. We get into some really privy information that, especially like in our safety committee with our police chief and, there's gang intervention and there's finance, rules committees that we deal with personnel issues that could affect the city and how we operate. So, some of these things where ultimately they will be brought before the body in a transparent fashion. There are some things, I do feel need to be worked within our organization first, then brought to the public. I am definitely a person of transparency, and I'm confident that myself and my colleagues within the organization will always be transparent in terms of the way we ultimately bring that forth. So I'm comfortable with that. I just think the publication of it became a bit public. It became dramatized and, politicized. And the intent of the committees truly is to have the body work before, with council members and staff, so we can make the best decisions for the public. So definitely not trying to wiggle my way out of it, but giving full disclosure on my thinking
Yeah,
on that.
no, and in this particular meeting, which has been continued on forever, there has been enough public interest that, I mean, with the first meeting, the room was full, and since then I know people have been watching it, whether they're watching it live
Right.
stream or whether they're watching it later. Because I've received enough comment from people that says, hey, I've been watching your meetings. It's like, so I know there's enough public interest in the topics that we're dealing with. So I felt that, yeah, public noticing of these
Yeah.
meetings was important, just, to keep the public up to speed on what we're talking about and how the discussion is going. And
But I think going forward, I think we, the real tangly portions of it, I think we've addressed. And now we're kind of coming into the parts that are just not so much they're not as controversial perhaps.
I would agree, yeah.
So that we could continue to do the frank conversation that we need to do. On some of these are coming up, so I would agree that those, well, and you know that I've stood there. And said, we don't need to notice these, but
So what I've got for,
Mayor,
Go ahead.
do we need to update the SMPs?
It would be a good idea. Right now, it says that all commissions and committees are subject to the open.
correct, that does need,
we need to
So-
update that.
There'd be better wording to provide for that because like you said, in this situation, it's not every meeting is required to go into the public for these commissions and committees. And meetings where you're going to get affirmative effects, so like an example, that would be LTAC or planning where they actually do written advisory opinions are required and it's a prerequisite to permits. Those have to be open for public comment.
And just like with the public hearing, if we were going to go out.
Correct.
We can solicit public comment.
That would
Then
be
it would- then it
noticed.
would be noticed.
Yes. So,
okay,
That was the way I understood that.
so in section 2, wherever that is, we're really so PMA, we can provide sample language.
Okay,
okay,
Maybe how to couch that a little bit better.
can we maybe, do we want to put that on our agenda for?
so what I've added things that are future agenda items, budget points. Send that to finance subcommittee, I think that we've handled that one today, remote public comment, are we gonna do sign ins, we need to do some rewording on 8.3, social media policies. Update the SMC, as pertains to the public notice of subcommittee meetings. And then there's one that I want to study a little bit more, it's the 3-touch rule, I think I've seen it in several of the city documents that we got. It's just kind of a procedure for bringing things forward to council so that we've got 3 different opportunities to look at it, discuss it. And finally vote on it, just to make sure that we're understanding things as well as we possibly can. Sometimes, you know, we've done it before where we've done things in 2 stages where, okay, there's been a first reading and then we bring it back to council for a vote in the next meeting. We've kind of stepped away from that. We're not required to do that if I remember correctly. And so we haven't recently, but I think that it does give us an opportunity to revisit these things over the next couple of weeks and come back to the next meeting and be a little more prepared. Especially,
That's probably a really good idea, because that way everybody gets to be on the same page, and then if you have questions about whatever. That have come up in the meantime, you have that one more opportunity before it becomes something we vote on.
right, and I mean, that doesn't stop people from being passionate for or against and not changing their mind on it. That's not what we're trying to do, but just make sure that we've got the best possible understanding before we take a vote. I read through that just with some curiosity, and I'd like to study that a little bit more, and I'd like for us to discuss that, so.
I can agree if it's an ordinance.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
And we'll look at specific instances for that sort of stuff, for a new ordinance especially, for a resolution, maybe not as much of importance, but yeah, definitely I'd like to investigate, and it may come to nothing, we may decide not to do anything with it, that's,
Just take a look at it.
and we don't have to cover this all in the next meeting.
Yeah. Future.
We want to meet once a month, if we've got some agenda items moving forward that keep us occupied for a little while. And I think we want to review the code of conduct. I think that's come up as well,
Kind of match.
to make sure that the language matches.
This, a lot of what happens in the code of conduct, that's where it has to also do with RCW 7.
It does, and how much you can actually regulate other council person's conduct, you can't regulate speech, but there are certain situations where. You have comment and it's related to budget issues or a specific section item, you have to limit the actual discussion to that subject. And you can't deviate from that, so that's where maybe you want your code of conduct to correct it a little bit.
Right. All right, so that was good. Anything else that needs to come up, George? I know you-
Just one more thing, I know we assigned Teresa Hancock to the LTAC committee, but she is also interested in the planning. And I know that's a very important part of the city, we wanna conduct business, and make sure that we have, forum in there.
Mhm.
Do we wanna discuss also assigning her to the planning?
Let's do that, yeah, let's do that at our next
We
meeting.
can do that at another meeting. As well,
I know that just recently the planning commission had a cancellation. I don't know if it was due to quorum or not, but if we're canceling planning commissions due to quorum and we have someone that's willing to serve, then
mhm,
We have a quorum right now, or they have a quorum right now. If they canceled it because 2 members were not going to be able to make it, and it was just an introduction to Derek. And so they wanted the whole committee to do, but they do have. Everyone's willing to meet in.
yeah, we don't have the same urgency as we did with
There's not a
LTAC.
vacancy there.
There is
There is.
one,
There's, yeah.
but they're able to continue their business.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. So we've set the date for the next meeting. The last item on the agenda is to adjourn, so.
But would you want to fill vacancies because the climate resilience advisory team only has 2 members? You're pending 2 other members that you've already reviewed an application for, or you have the application for. And I know they want to put that team together so that they can meet to start making changes to the plan.
Do they have a meeting set up?
They don't because they only have 2 members.
Has everybody got their applications in fully? Because that was
Yeah.
what was holding us up
Yes,
before.
It's been sent to,
Incomplete.
so maybe you can review that before the next meeting. I don't
Sure, why don't we do
I
that?
do that, yeah.
Meet before the November 6th meeting
Well, that's-
and
I think
go over that.
so, but I don't.
So is this group, this group picks the climate resiliency?
This group takes,
Okay.
Boards
yeah, boards and commissions.
Oh, okay, and I don't, let me check the sense of urgency, because obviously sooner is always better.
Right, well, it was supposed to have been done in June, but
Yeah,
we had some folks who kind of ran ahead of things and did it
Yeah.
themselves, and we had to correct that, and so.
do we have enough applicants?
We have 2 that have been appointed and 2 applications
So-
waiting.
Okay, so
So
we're
we
2
need
others, how, do you know
So
how
we
big
would
the
have, with those 4, we would have a quorum to be able to meet.
because it's 5 members total.
And
That was
7.
but
Is there any state requirements that we, is it
It's
the grant,
a
right?
brand new one.
that's a brand new one, and it is a state requirement.
That we need to meet, like they need to meet a certain time limit?
Joseph had said the team had to be like complete by July or June.
It was June, ended by the end of June.
Then we did an extension.
I don't know, I have to talk to Joseph, but when we sent the applications, we only received 2.
I remember there were like 5 or 6 different folks who were all gung ho. I remember
Well, and they
that.
were put on the committee, and then
Mhm.
several of them said, you've already got an application for me for something else, and so I don't wanna fill one in. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not how life works.
Yeah.
This is the go.
So
Yeah,
the paperwork is,
paperwork is key.
I just don't wanna be in violation if there is like.
Right.
Yeah, just time limit.
let's check on that and.
If, Mike, if you wanna check on that and just get in touch with us on that
Yeah,
one.
let me find out the details,
And
so.
then if we need to come together and discuss those, yeah, we can do that.
The other thing is too, if you could just well, we know 2. And we reappointed those 2, I can't remember who it was,
Dana Smith
and
and
wasn't Erickson? Karen Erickson,
possibly.
seems like it was Karen Erickson.
You may be right. She got appointed to, I don't know, I have not been studying that. It's been on my mind all this time, so I have to.
Yeah, Karen.
Karen Vandergraaf,
Karen
okay.
Erickson, okay. And then Councilman Vasquez. is in there.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
And it was Jory and Britton Moore that had their pending application
Okay.
with you.
Joy Anderson.
Right, and I read Jory's, haven't been, yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading those, yeah. But we need at least 4.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what we gotta do, and
Yeah,
if we have to meet special, is that gonna be on program?
no,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's on you, I'll be here, so.
No, that's the
not a problem for me.
And since you won't be noticing them, you can leave them over.
And
Okay, let's see.
we probably should put that on Facebook again, or some of our social media.
Yeah.
See if anybody out there.
Maybe there's somebody else out there.
Loads of fun.
especially after all those things down there in Florida, you know.
Great place to not be right now, North Carolina and Florida. I had,
You still have family over there?
Family there.
Yeah, my grandmother lives in, just north of Miami, so I've got various members throughout Florida, so I've got some cousins that are up by Tampa. So been checking on them.
I got a nephew and his family. who live
I met with somebody yesterday who has a house in Sarasota. Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago, they got hit, and now they were getting hit again as we spoke, you know, and just absolutely,
I went through Hurricane Andrew in
So we're gonna have-
'93, so that was.
yeah. All right, so